Remember that crazy ice storm we had last month?
Uh-huh.
The one that shut down the whole city?
Oh, yeah.
I was stuck at home for days, just glued to the weather updates, waiting for things to thaw out.
Right.
And it really hit me then.
Yeah.
Like, just how much we all rely on NOAA.
You mean the National Oceanic Atmosphere Administration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For basically everything.
It's true, though. We do kind of take NOAA for granted, I think.
Yeah.
They're the ones,
Right.
behind the scenes,
Yeah.
making sure we get those accurate forecasts and, the severe weather warnings and even the data that helps us figure out those long-term climate trends.
Exactly. So, okay, we rely on them a lot.
We do.
But here's the thing.
What's that?
NOAA's facing some serious challenges.
Oh.
Challenges that could directly impact the accuracy
Oh, wow.
and the speed of the information we get. And we're talking about layoffs.
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 Yeah.
Not just like a few positions here and there.
Wow.
Like big time layoffs.
Okay, so how many people are we talking about here?
Well, over 800
800.
employees are being let go.
Out of...
And that's out of a workforce of roughly 13,000.
Wow. That's a lot. So that's like losing, what, an entire graduating class of, meteorologists and scientists and...
Like all that expertise just gone.
Yeah. And it's not just happening at, NOAA headquarters either. It's across the board.
Wow.
Impacting the National Weather Service, research labs, the satellite division, even the Office of Space Commerce.
Wow, 800 people.
I know.
That's huge. And you mentioned something earlier about probationary employees being particularly affected.
Yes. A large portion of those being laid off are those probationary employees, which means they have less than 2 years of service.
So they're like the new folks.
Yeah. We're losing a lot of that newer talent, the folks who are just getting started and, bringing fresh perspectives to the agency.
Right.
What's ironic is that this is happening at the same time as a
what?
A government buyout program that's encouraging older, more experienced employees to retire early.
So it's like a double whammy.
It is a double whammy for NOAA.
Wow.
Losing both ends of the experience spectrum.
So we have these massive layoffs happening.
We do.
But why?
Well,
what's the driving force behind it all?
A big part of it seems to be the Department of Government Efficiency.
Okay.
Which is headed by
Elon
Musk.
Yeah.
Their goal is to basically shrink the federal government. And NOAA has been told to brace for potential budget cuts.
Budget cuts?
Yeah.
Up to how much?
Up to 1/3.
A third of their budget.
A third.
That's insane.
I know.
What would that even mean for NOAA's ability to
to
function?
To function properly.
Yeah.
It's hard to say exactly what would be on the chopping block,
Right.
But it could be devastating.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
The research programs that are studying climate change.
The vital data collected by satellites and weather balloons.
Right.
Even the maintenance of critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
These things cost money.
Right.
And without sufficient funding, NOAA's ability to fulfill its mission would be severely compromised.
And then there's this whole thing about Project 2025.
Oh, yeah.
I know it's like a policy document from the Heritage Foundation.
Right.
But what's like the gist of it?
Project 2025 is essentially a blueprint for how conservatives envision the government if they were to gain full control.
Oh.
And one of its key targets is NOAA.
Really?
The document calls for its dismantling.
Wow.
Labeling it a bloated bureaucracy driven by climate change alarm.
So we have budget cuts looming.
Yeah.
A push to shrink the government.
Right.
And this Project 2025 that seems to have it out for NOAA.
Pretty much.
Where does the National Weather Service fit into all of this?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because they're the ones issuing severe weather warnings.
They're like the folks on the front lines, so to speak.
The National Weather Service is already grappling with staffing shortages.
Oh, really?
And struggling to attract new talent. These layoffs are only going to make things worse.
Oh, wow.
We're already seeing the impact in places like Alaska, where a weather balloon launch had to be canceled because they were understaffed.
Really?
Yeah. These balloons provide critical data for forecasting.
Wow.
And if we can't even get them off the ground,
right,
it raises some serious concerns.
That's pretty alarming, especially when you consider that severe weather season's just around the corner in the southeast.
Exactly.
And then hurricane season is coming up too.
The timing of these cuts couldn't be worse.
We need more resources.
Exactly.
Not fewer.
Yes. to handle the increasing frequency and intensity of extreme weather events.
Okay, so we've got these layoffs happening at a critical time.
Yes.
And it seems like there's a lot of pushback.
There is.
I've heard that some lawmakers are speaking out pretty forcefully against these cuts.
Yes. Lawmakers like Senator Maria Cantwell
Okay.
and Representative Jared Huffman
Mm-hmm.
have been very vocal in their criticisms.
What are they saying?
Well, Cantwell called this a direct hit
A direct hit?
to our economy,
Wow.
pointing out that NOAA's work supports more than a third of the nation's GDP.
Wow.
And Huffman emphasized how people nationwide
yeah.
depend on NOAA
Mm-hmm.
for accurate forecasts and severe weather alerts and emergency information,
Right.
especially during times of crisis.
So it sounds like they're trying to sound the
Yeah.
alarm bell and get people to pay attention to what's happening
Absolutely.
to understand the potential consequences
it,
of
bro.
weakening NOAA.
And it's not just lawmakers who are concerned.
Uh,
Scientists and environmental groups are also expressing alarm.
What are they saying?
They're worried about the loss of expertise,
Okay.
the impact on vital research,
Uh,
and the potential for setbacks in our understanding and response to climate change.
so we're losing
Yeah.
valuable knowledge and capacity.
Exactly, at a time when we need it most.
And then there's the human side of it all.
Right.
I was reading about Emma Esquivel.
Who's that?
She's an executive assistant in Alaska
Mm-hmm.
who was laid off despite being overqualified for her position.
Oh, wow.
It's easy to get caught up in the big picture,
Yeah.
but stories like hers remind us that these decisions
Yeah.
have real consequences for
Mhm.
real people.
Her story is a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that behind these statistics and policy pronouncements,
Right.
there are individuals
Okay.
with families and dreams and livelihoods
Yeah.
that are being upended.
So we've got layoffs at NOAA,
Yes.
a push to shrink the government,
Right.
a policy document targeting the agency,
Yeah.
and a chorus of criticism
Hmm.
from lawmakers, scientists, and environmental groups.
It's a lot.
It paints a pretty bleak picture.
It does. But it's important to remember that we're not powerless in this situation.
Okay.
It's a good point.
We can make a difference by staying informed,
Uh-huh.
engaging in discussions,
Yeah.
and making our voices heard.
Absolutely. We'll talk more about that later in the episode.
Sounds good.
So we just talked about how NOAA's facing some major hurdles, budget cuts, layoffs, and a political climate.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be very supportive
Right.
of their mission.
Yeah.
But let's dive a little deeper into the potential consequences of all of this,
Okay.
especially when it comes to the National Weather Service.
Okay.
Those are the folks who are issuing those severe weather warnings
Right.
that literally save lives.
It's easy to take those warnings for granted.
Oh, yeah.
But, think about it. How often do you check the weather app
All the time.
before you head out the door or,
Mhm.
planning a trip or
Right.
even just deciding what to wear for the day?
Yeah.
Behind those simple forecasts you see
Uh-huh.
is a really complex network of technology and expertise. Wow.
A lot of which is provided by the National Weather Service.
Right.
A key part of NOAA.
Right. And we're not just talking about whether to pack an umbrella.
Right.
We're talking about
We're talking about the big stuff.
the big stuff.
Hurricanes,
What's against it?
tornadoes,
Blizzards.
blizzards, flash floods,
Yeah.
events that can cause massive damage and disruption,
Mhm.
even loss of life.
Exactly. And those accurate forecasts
Right.
and timely warnings
Yes.
depend on a well-staffed
Yeah.
and well-equipped National Weather Service.
For sure.
But as we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
the NWS is already facing staffing shortages,
They are.
struggling to recruit new talent.
Yes.
And now they're being hit with these layoffs.
On top of everything else.
So fewer staff means what exactly?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Slower response times.
Yeah.
Less accurate forecasts.
What's the real impact here?
Imagine a scenario
Okay.
where a severe thunderstorm is developing.
Right.
You need skilled meteorologists
Yeah.
to analyze the radar data. Mm-hmm.
Run the forecast models
Right.
and issue those timely warnings to the public.
Uh-huh.
But if you're short-staffed,
Yeah.
those critical tasks might get delayed,
Right.
and that could potentially put lives at risk.
It's not just about the number of people, right?
No.
It's about having the right people
Exactly.
with the right expertise in the right places.
Absolutely. Losing experienced forecasters,
Uh-huh.
especially those specializing in specific types of weather events
Okay.
or certain geographic regions,
Yeah.
can create gaps in knowledge and expertise
Right.
that are hard to fill.
It's like a well-oiled machine
Mm-hmm.
suddenly having parts removed.
Yeah.
Things might still function,
Right.
but not as smoothly
Yeah.
or efficiently.
And in the case of severe weather,
Right.
those inefficiencies can have dire consequences.
And it's not just about predicting the weather itself right. It's
Ah.
also about communicating that information
Right.
effectively.
To the public. Yeah. To emergency management officials.
Yes. Clear, concise, and timely warnings
Right.
can mean the difference between life and death
Exactly.
in a severe weather situation.
And remember, we're heading into spring now,
Oh, yeah.
which is like prime time for severe weather outbreaks,
Especially in the Southeast.
particularly in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have hurricane season.
Looming large on the horizon.
Coming up, I read that even the hurricane hunters are being affected by these cuts.
Really?
Those are the folks who fly right into the eye of the storm
They do. They fly right into the eye of the storm.
to gather crucial data.
Yes. The hurricane hunters play a vital role
Yeah.
in understanding the intensity and track of those powerful storms.
Right?
Their observations help forecasters issue more accurate predictions,
Yeah.
giving people more time to prepare
Right.
and evacuate if necessary.
Yeah.
But they operate on a tight budget,
Oh, really?
and they rely on a highly skilled and experienced crew. Even a small reduction in staff or funding
Right.
could have a significant impact on their ability to do their job effectively.
It seems like everything's connected.
It is.
And any disruption to one part of the system
Yeah,
can have ripple effects throughout.
that's exactly right. It's a delicate balance. And these layoffs at NOAA,
Mm-hmm.
especially within the National Weather Service,
Right.
are throwing that balance off
Uh-huh.
at a time when we can least afford it.
But it's not just about immediate forecasts and warnings.
No, it's not.
NOAA also does a lot of long-term research and monitoring.
They do.
That helps us understand
Yes.
and prepare for future climate change impacts.
Very important work.
How are these layoffs going to affect that critical work?
That's a crucial point. NOAA plays a key role in gathering climate data, conducting research,
Mhm.
and developing models that help us understand how our planet is changing
Right.
and what those changes mean for our future.
So it's like long-term stuff.
Yes. This work informs policy decisions. It helps communities adapt to rising sea levels and more extreme weather events,
Right.
and guides efforts to mitigate the impacts of climate change.
So if NOAA is weakened by these cuts,
Yeah.
our ability to understand and respond to climate change
Is also weakened.
is also weakened.
Unfortunately, yes.
Wow.
We risk losing valuable data,
Uh-huh.
delaying critical research,
Right.
and ultimately hindering our ability to make informed decisions.
What, climate change?
It's about one of the most pressing challenges facing humanity.
And it just seems so counterintuitive.
I know.
We're seeing more and more evidence of climate change impacts.
Right.
Record-breaking heat waves.
Yeah.
More intense storms, rising sea levels.
Uh-huh.
Yet we're cutting funding to
Yeah.
the very agency that helps us understand and address these issues.
It's a concerning paradox.
Yeah.
And it's not just about funding either.
What else is it about?
It's about the overall message being sent.
Right.
When you cut budgets and staff at agencies like NOAA, it sends a signal that climate change isn't a priority.
Right.
And that can have ripple effects far beyond the agency itself.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it can discourage talented young scientists
Okay.
from pursuing careers in climate-related fields.
So like the next generation.
Exactly. It can undermine public trust in scientific institutions.
Well, why?
And it can make it harder to enact meaningful policies.
To actually address climate change.
To address climate change, yes.
So these layoffs are not just about numbers on a spreadsheet.
No, they're not.
They represent a potential setback
Yeah.
in our understanding of our planet
Uh-huh.
and our ability to address
Yes.
one of the most pressing challenges of our time.
It's pretty disheartening.
It is.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember
Yeah.
that we're not powerless in this situation.
We're not. We can still make a difference.
That's a good point.
Okay.
We'll talk more about that in the next segment.
Okay.
But before we do,
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
The human cost of these layoffs. Real people
Yeah.
with families, dreams,
Mhm.
careers
Mhm.
that are being disrupted by these decisions.
Yes. We can't forget about them.
Yeah.
Amidst all the talk of budgets and policy.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Behind every statistic,
Yeah.
there's a human story.
There is.
People who have dedicated their lives
Yes.
to public service, to science,
To protecting our planet.
to protecting our planet.
Hmm.
Their contributions are invaluable.
They are.
And we shouldn't lose sight of that.
Absolutely not.
Like Emma Esquivel,
Right.
the executive assistant in Alaska who was laid off.
Yeah.
Her story is a reminder
Yes.
that these decisions have real-world consequences
They do.
for individuals and their families.
These are not just numbers on a spreadsheet.
Right.
These are people's lives.
It's important to keep that in mind
Yeah.
as we continue this conversation. So we've spent the last 2 segments talking about the threats to NOAA,
Yeah.
the budget cuts, the politically motivated attacks, and then the very real consequences of all those staffing shortages.
Uh-huh. Especially for the National Weather Service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, it's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
Let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and explore what can be done
Yeah. What actions can be taken?
to protect NOAA and the really important services that it provides.
It's easy to get overwhelmed
Yeah.
by how big this problem is. I
Right.
feel like you want to just give up.
Totally.
But there are things that we can do,
Okay.
both on a policy level
Okay.
and through things that we do every day.
All right, so let's start with the big picture stuff.
Right.
What kind of policy changes would actually make a difference for NOAA in the long run?
Well, the most obvious change, and probably the most impactful,
Okay.
would be to reverse those drastic budget cuts.
Right.
Like we talked about, NOAA's facing a potential reduction
Yeah,
of 1/3 of its budget,
a third.
which would be crippling.
Right.
Congress controls the money, so they need to hear from us.
From their constituents.
Yeah, loud and clear that funding for NOAA is essential.
So contacting our representatives, letting them know that we value NOAA,
Yes.
that we want to see it properly supported.
Exactly.
That's something that listeners can do right now.
Absolutely. Every voice matters. And lawmakers do pay attention to what their constituents are saying.
Okay, cool. So we can reach out to our representative.
Yeah.
We also talked about Project 2025,
Right.
that policy document that seems to be targeting NOAA.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do to counter that kind of attack?
Well, Project 2025 is pushing this narrative
Okay?
that paints NOAA as a wasteful bureaucracy
Right.
that's obsessed with climate change alarmism.
Right.
It's a dangerous narrative.
Yeah.
And it's really important to counter it with facts, with evidence, and real-world examples of how valuable NOAA is.
Right, because if people don't understand what NOAA actually does,
Exactly.
how its work affects them,
Benefits them directly.
they're more likely to believe that negative spin
For sure. So sharing accurate information about NOAA, highlighting how it contributes to public safety, to economic well-being,
right.
and our understanding of the planet.
Okay.
These are all important actions we can take to push back against that misinformation.
So we can fight for NOAA on a policy level
Yes.
by advocating for funding and countering misinformation.
Exactly.
But what about more immediate solutions for those staffing shortages
Right.
at the National Weather Service?
Those are a pressing concern.
Yeah, especially with severe weather season coming up.
We need both short-term and long-term strategies.
Okay, so what can we do in the short term?
Well, one option is to try to streamline the hiring process.
Because right now it's like a bureaucratic nightmare.
It can be,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
The current process is lengthy and complex,
Right.
which discourages good people from applying
Yeah,
and leaves those important positions unfilled.
makes sense.
So simplifying the process, making it more competitive with the private sector, could help attract and keep that top talent.
So cutting through the red tape,
Yeah.
making it more appealing to work for the National Weather Service.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about longer-term solutions?
One promising avenue is to strengthen those partnerships
Okay.
with universities and research institutions.
Okay, so working with schools.
Yeah. This could involve, creating more training programs, offering more internships,
Right.
even collaborating on research projects.
So it's like investing in that next generation
Yeah.
of weather experts.
Exactly. Making sure there's a pipeline of qualified professionals
Yeah.
to carry the torch, so to speak.
And what about technology?
Oh, technology's a big one.
Yeah. Does it have a role to play in all of this?
Definitely. Advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning
Wow.
could help automate some of those tasks,
Right.
which would free up human forecasters to focus on the more complex and critical stuff.
So not replacing human expertise, but
Yeah.
like augmenting it.
Exactly.
Making the best use of those limited resources.
Exactly. Technology is a tool, and it can be a powerful one
Yeah.
if it's used wisely.
It feels like we're talking about a multi-pronged approach.
We
We're
are.
tackling this problem from different angles
Yeah.
with both short-term and long-term solutions.
That's exactly what's needed.
Right.
It's a complex issue. There's
Yeah.
no magic bullet.
Right.
But by addressing the funding challenges, countering that misinformation, streamlining the hiring processes,
Right.
investing in future talent, and leveraging technology, we can protect NOAA and make sure it can keep doing that vital work.
And it's important to remember that this isn't just about some, abstract government agency.
Right.
This is about all of us.
It is.
It's about having accurate weather information.
Yes.
Understanding how the climate's changing. And making sure our oceans and fisheries are healthy.
It touches our lives in so many ways.
Yeah. And speaking of staying informed,
Yes.
our go-to weather expert, Rob Jones.
Oh, yeah.
He's been following this whole situation really closely.
He has.
You can find him on Instagram at Meteorologist.
Okay.
On TikTok at TV Meteorologist.
Right.
And on YouTube at Rob Jones Hurricane.
He's a great resource for staying up to date.
Yeah.
And understanding how complex all of this is.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
The challenges facing NOAA. The potential consequences if we don't do anything.
Right.
And thankfully, some potential solutions and some hope.
Glimmers of hope.
It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
But hopefully this episode has helped to shed some light on how important NOAA is.
For sure.
And the role we can all play in protecting it.
Absolutely. And remember, this is an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for future updates as things develop.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, let's all do our part to support NOAA and its work.
Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we all need accurate weather information, a healthy planet, and a safe future.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us on Meteorology Matters.
My pleasure.